In our SMB reports, as we turn our eyes closer to giving you more of the information of what is happening from the business world, we are heading to what is coming in through the cargo logistics. As the cost of moving cargo in and out of Uganda has now increased, as the African ports, like other counterparts elsewhere in the world, have been profoundly affected by the COVID-19 crisis. Trade volumes tumbled during the early month of the pandemic, but a small number of ports on the African continent or on the African coastline managed to record some growth over the course of the crisis. Uganda, being a landlocked country, is feeling the pinch harder, as it can clearly explain the soaring prices of commodities, since the cost of moving cargo in and out of Uganda has increased. Let's have more of the details of this report.
The recovery process in Africa has pushed up demand for containers, resulting in a record of freight rates, which in turn have increased the cost of moving cargo in and out of Africa. Kenneth Aibare, chairperson Uganda Cargo Consolidators Association, says the shipping price has reduced a bit since China moved into the new year, unlike when we went into the lunar year, though he explains that since Uganda is a landlocked country, that's why the prices have been high.
Price has again a bit reduced because China is out of the new year. But before we went into the new year, the lunar new year, the shipping price was thrice the price we had in 2019. From 3,500 we had gone to 9,800. At some point we even were about 12,000, and that's just from China to Mombasa. So before you add, we are a landlocked country, and in most cases landlocked countries, we have a geographical disadvantage in that we will also have to add another half price of the sea to meet the road cost up to Kampala. For example, moving a 40-feet container up to Kampala will cost you around $3,500. $3,500 when you add the current price, which is about $6,500, you'll find you're over $10,000 shipping a container.
He further reveals that such high prices will affect a number of things. For example, cost of production and also the cost of transportation will definitely become high. Therefore, the logistics costs are affecting commodity prices.
Such kind of prices will cut across those, the logistics chain and the supply chain distribution interferences will cut across. The cost of production becomes high, the shelf price becomes high, even the cost of transport, because even the fuel that should be moving these vehicles that are carrying the containers or carrying the goods, the intermediary goods, the raw materials and all that becomes a bit high. And therefore, the final shelf price today, 30% of the cost of every item on the shelf in Uganda is a logistics cost. So if you go to buy a shirt or a pair of shoes, you'll find that 30% of the price that they are charging you is a contribution of logistics.
Aibare says that in the last 2 years, there have been challenges that have been faced in the logistics sector, and among the challenges is that of the cost of doing business plus the details and shipping.
The cost of doing business became high. And then the delays. At some point, these ports where we go through had to work from home, and then that sluggishness, whereby you would find that we are incurring costs of damage and storage. Why? Because the efficiency of how we've been operating before is not there. So you would find that you brought a container, they are giving you 9 days in Mombasa. After 9 days, they start counting about $120 per day. So if you have more 10 days, you have about $1,200 to foot into one container. So the cost of doing business became high. Secondly, the other challenge that we had is the turnaround time. Getting containers became hard. You find your warehouse is full of goods. Everyone is asking, why don't you ship my goods? But then you don't have the containers. Vessels started having what we call dead freights, skipping freights. If a vessel is supposed to be coming once a week, you would find it reached the port where it was supposed to be going but could not be offloaded, and then that's a dead freight. But you've already made a shipping order and you cannot cancel. If you cancel, it simply means, and when you cancel still, you're not sure of getting another container. So in most cases, there were much delays in shipping. From the seaports of China, these goods come by vessels. I think you've seen containers written on PIL, that is Pacific International Lines, maybe MSC, Maersk Line. All these are different vessels. They own these containers. So when you make a shipping order through a freight forwarder or a shipping agent, they lease a container to you for a certain period of time, let's say 30 days. So the container will move, if it's a direct vessel, the container can move up to 16 days or 18 days to Mombasa. So when it gets to Mombasa, we do what we call a multimodal transport arrangement. Since we are a landlocked country and we are not next to the sea, we use road transport, either road or rail. However, because of rail being inefficient, we've been using road. Road transport is the most expensive transport in the 4 types of transport that we have. So it makes shipping expensive. So we now get these trucks that you see carrying containers, then we load the container. That takes about 3 days up to Kampala. But with the inconveniences that are there with COVID-19 checks, and so we've been taking 4 to 5 days up to Kampala.
He, however, believes that among the solutions Uganda can set up to get rid of the situation is by looking at agro-production and also try to export services to our neighboring countries.
Being an agricultural country, to do agro-production, because 70% of the inputs in agro-production would be from our raw materials made from here. Then we can depend on 30% of the intermediaries. The effect would not be high like the reverse. Because right now, most of the inputs that we are, 70% of what we are using as intermediaries for production are coming from the outside world. So we have not invested a lot into agro-production. Then the other solution would be, as a landlocked country, depending on our neighbors, we would develop from our neighbors. What services do they need? 3% of all the services that we import right now, we export right now, are logistics services. But we can provide up to 70% of the logistics services. But we need to look at investing in the alternative methods of transportation. For example, railway transport. Even intercity transport, using the water bodies we have for transport, so that we don't depend on fuel. The cost of production will then reduce. Because right now, if you look at the cost of delivering a bunch of matoke from the west to the north, it is half of the price of that bunch of matoke in the north. So at the end of the day, you realize that there's an internal logistics issue. So if you solve the internal logistics issues as a landlocked country, then we would find ourselves not depending so much on the inputs.
We have prepared ourselves for the worst of the times in 2022. Soaring prices from sugar, soap, cooking oil, and as a matter of fact, most of these can as well hit back to the cargo logistics in there. As the cost of moving cargo in and out of the country has also increased greatly, and when you also attach the taxes onto it, you can easily see that prices soaring is inevitable. And we are yet to feel more of the pinch with the ongoing crisis in Ukraine and Russia. And furthermore, we are still yet to understand how best can we live with these prices, because even the producers are also hiking, saying that the people that give them these particular raw materials are attaching them to the ongoing fuel crisis, fuel prices that is actually happening in the country. When you look at most of the reasons behind it, the reason behind the increasing cost of production has in one way or the other, got an attachment to what is coming out from the world of the fuel and gas. And better yet, we are going to discuss more of this issue to do with the cargo logistics and from the field of cargo. And later on, after the break, we shall be joined by a gentleman from maritime logistics, as we are going to get to understand more of what is happening in there. They also face challenges, but how have they been faring since the last 2 years of the lockdown? Looking at the prices of the containers, most of these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about mainly. Because when you look at the cargo and the issue that is happening, just like I said quite earlier, the African ports, like their counterparts elsewhere in the world, have been profoundly affected greatly by the COVID-19 pandemic. And it is actually trade volumes that have trembled during the early month of the pandemic. But as of now, a few or smaller number of ports on the coast of the African continent have managed to record some growth over the course of the crisis. But since Uganda is a landlocked country, we are feeling the pitch differently because it can clearly see that most of the charges are bound to increase with the fact that we have different ports, let's say the port of Mombasa and that of Dar es Salaam, that is managing our imports in here in the country. Besides the fact that we still have to benefit from, let's say, the outside markets of China and all the others where we import, and also those that we export to as well as a country. But how best can we survive the Russia and Ukraine invasion? And we are going to get this particular angle from the logistics view, from the people of the logistics. And stick around here on Smart 24 TV. Just a quick reminder though, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram on at Smart 24 TV as well for more business details in regards to one, information, more of getting exclusive interviews from all the business reports that we do have here on the show. And then furthermore, you can as well get to our YouTube channel, that is by liking, subscribing, as well as leaving a comment on the details regarding business reports and stories that you find there. We do have quite a number of programs detailed for you in regards to do with business reports and stories. And well, the website for more of these particular reports and stories that do happen in the news hour, as well as from the different shows, you can get them on www.smart24tv.com. And if at all you're moving moving somewhere and you cannot carry your TV set with you automatically, you can still download the Yo TV app on MTN and get that Smart 24 TV wherever you are, and you can catch a glimpse of it from wherever and whenever you're going. Well, this is What Means Best. This I'm Jerome Paul Sonko. We do take a break, but after it, we discuss the cargo logistics industry and what are the effects of the Russia and Ukraine war on this particular sector. Stick around.